कक्ष्याणां पुनरारम्भं कुर्मः। कौमुद्याः अजन्तपुल्लिङ्गप्रकरणे 14 भागः। फेब्रवरी मासस्य 11 दिनाङ्कः। अजन्तपुल्लिङ्गेषु अकारान्तेभ्यः आरभ्यते। येनाक्षरसमाम्नायमधिगम्य महेश्वरान् कृत्स्नं व्याकरणं प्रोक्तं तस्मै पाणिनये नमः। वाक्यकारं वररुचिं भाष्यकारं पतञ्जलिं पाणिनिं सूत्रकारं च प्रणतोऽस्मि मुनित्रयम्। मित्रयन् नमस्कृत्य तदुक्तिः परिभाव्य च वैयाकरणसिद्धान्तकौमुदीयं विरच्यते। इदानीम् आकारान्तपुल्लिङ्गैः आरभ्यते। अकारान्तपुल्लिङ्गाः अधीताः रामशब्दादारभ्य द्व्यह्न व्यह्न सायह्न शब्दपर्यन्तं ये शब्दाः ते सर्वे अधीताः। अद्य पुनरावर्तनं किमपि नास्ति। I hope you all remember what we went through. Now we are finishing. Dikshidhar goes in the alphabetical order. So we finished akarantas and we are starting with akaranta pullingas. Akaranta pullingas are actually very rare. At the lower levels, what they teach us, if it's akaranta, it is pullinga, if it's akaranta, it can be considered as strilinga and so on. So they are very rare, but still they are there. So, and since this is a Vyakarana Grantha, he should deal with it to be comprehensive. So Vishwapa iti shabdaha akarantaha pullingaha katham nishpattihi iti chet Vishwam pati ityarthe pa rakshane iti rakshanarthakaha pa dhatuhu adadikaha. It's a dhatu which belongs to the second gana. Pati nama rakshati. Vishwam rakshati ityarthe pa iti dhatoho which iti pratyaya bhavati kadantaha. ततः उपपदसमासः उपपदमतिं इति सूत्रेण उपपदसमासः विश्वपा इति प्रातिपदिकं कृत्तद्धितसमासाश्च समासत्वात् कृत्तद्धितसमासाश्च इत्यनेन प्रातिपदिकसंज्ञा भवति. So विश्वपा is our प्रातिपदिका. Since it ends in a दीर्घ akara, we call it an akaranta and it is a pullinga. It could be anything. Vishwapa need not be pullinga. So Vishwam pati devahasya deva devi syat. It could be either pullinga or strilinga, but the forms now we are considering it to be a pullinga. Vishwam pati kaschana ityarthe pratipadikam vishwapa iti. Kim bhavati tataha? The nishpatti, what I showed in the previous thing was actually for my revision. You are not expected to remember all this now, but it is still there. If people are interested, there is Vishwa is a upapada. The pa dhatu gets a which pratyaya, which is a suffix, a kridanta suffix which is added by the sutra anyebhyopi drishyante. This is actually a very queer pratyaya. There are a set of pratyayas like quip and which and others where the suffix is not heard at all. Everything in the suffix is deleted. Say in which the ikara gets its samya by upadesha zinanasika. Chakarasya halantyam itsenena itsamya ubhayoho lopaha. Vakaraha shishyate. ततः तस्य वकारस्यापि वेरप्रत्ययस्य इत्यनेन लोपो जायते. So it is completely removed. You add a suffix and remove it, but now the speciality is that it becomes a kridanta. Right? So now it remains as pa. There is some cases where there might be a change in the prakriti. Say there might be a samprasarana or something, but there are many cases where the prakriti remains as it is. You cannot see any visible change by adding the pratyaya, but still it is called a pratyayanta. It is a kridanta now. With this kridanta, we do an upapada samasa. Like kumbham karoti iti kumbhakaraha, we have vishvam pati iti vishwa iti pratipadikena saha pa iti kridantena saha samasaha bhavati. Vishwapa iti samastam padam tasya pratipadika samya krittadhita samasascha ityanena. Tasya, I hope you remember the prakriya, how we go about the prakriya. Soja samochas ityadina sutrena prathamaikavachane vivakshite su pratyayah pratyayasya ukarasya upadeshaya jananasika ityanena itsamya tasya lopaha vishwapa su isthite sasajushoruhu iti sakarasya sthane padantasya sasya rutvam syat ityantvatva. This is idam padam. Kathamidam padam. How is this a pada? Very simple question, but I'm just trying to get you back to track. Vasuji?
You are asking about Vishwapa as the Padam or Pratipadika, right? It's a
Sorry?
Pratipadika. After Sakara, it is Suptingantam Padam.
Suptingantam Padam. Iti सूत्रेण विश्वपा इति प्रातिपदिकं सुप्रत्ययः कृतः प्रत्ययान्तं यद्भवति सुप्तिङन्तं पदं सुबन्तं तिङन्तं च पदसंज्ञं स्यात् इत्युक्तत्वात् तस्य पदसंज्ञा भवति पदत्वात् ससजुषोरुः पदान्तस्य सस्य सजुशब्दस्य च रुः स्यात् इति सूत्रार्थः पदान्ते विद्यमानः सकारः तस्य स्थाने रुत्वं विधीयते तत्रापि उकारस्य इत् संज्ञा अस्ति उपदेशे अजननासिक इत् अनुनासिकत्वात् इत् संज्ञा तस्य लोपः विश्वपा ऋ ततः खरवसानयोर्विसर्जनीयः इति रेफस्य स्थाने विसर्गः आदेशः क्रियते सो विश्वपाः इति प्रथमा विभक्तौ एकवचनं you know that sounds like ramaha this happens to be ekavachana okay vishwapaha iti ekavachanantam roopam ततः औ विश्वपा औ सु औ द्विवचने विवक्षिते औ प्रत्ययः किं भवेत् अत्र what should we get कस्य सूत्रस्य प्रवृत्तिः भवेत् औ प्रत्यये परतः
Yeah.
Vasuji?
Pratamayoho purvasavarnaha is negated by nadichi. Then we should have vriddhirechi as vishwa.
Okay. So yes. So first thing is correct. Yeah. There is a prapti of prathamayoho purvasavarnaha. Akaha prathama dvitiyayoho achipare purvasavarna dirghah ekadeshah syat. Whenever an ach is followed by akvarna is followed by an ach of the prathama or dvitiya vibhakti, there should be prathamayoh purvasavarnaha. Ityena purvasavarna dirghah syat. प्रथमयोः पूर्वसवर्णः इति पूर्वसवर्णदीर्घे प्राप्ते किं भवति इत्यपि उक्तं तेन महोदयेन नादिचि इति निषेधः भवति इति किन्तु दीक्षितैः अन्यदेकं निषेधसूत्रम् उपस्थाप्यते अत्र दीर्घात् जसि च इति अग्रिमं सूत्रं पदत्रयं विद्यते दीर्घात् जसि च प्रथमयोः पूर्वसवर्णः इत्यतः पूर्वसवर्णः इति अनुवर्तते नादिचि इति सूत्रात् न इति अनुवर्तते पूर्वसवर्णदीर्घः न भवति कदा न भवति दीर्घात् जसि परे दीर्घवर्णात् जस् प्रत्यये परे च इत्यस्मात् इचि इत्यपि अस्ति नादिचि इत्यतः न इति अनुवर्तते इचि जसि इचि च परे दीर्घात् जसि इचि च परे पूर्वसवर्णदीर्घः न स्यात् इति सूत्रार्थः whenever a long vowel दीर्घ is followed by either just pratyaya or ich iti pratyaharaha I u r r e o I o akaram vihaya अन्येषां स्वराणां प्रत्याहारः ich iti जसि प्रत्यये परे ich वर्णे परे च दीर्घात् परे पूर्वसवर्ण दीर्घः न भवति so we see here विश्वपा औ इत्यस्ति अयं विश्वपा इति दीर्घः दीर्घात् औकारः ich वर्णः दीर्घात् ich वर्णे परे पूर्वसवर्ण दीर्घः न भवति इति पूर्वसवर्ण दीर्घ निषेधः so since this sutra negates पूर्वसवर्ण दीर्घ we go back to the original sutra which was वृद्धि विश्वपा औ इति स्थिते वृद्धिरेचि इति सूत्रेण आद् एचि परे वृद्धिः एकादेशः स्यात् वृद्धौ विश्वपौ इति रूपं विश्वपाः विश्वपौ Any questions?
We could have got this form from the other sutra. Why do we need this sutra then?
Right. Okay. So, saya prashnah. Vasu महोदयेनापि उक्तं नादिचि इत्येव पूर्वसवर्णदीर्घ निषेधः भवितुम् अर्हति आद् इचि परे अवर्णाद् इचि परे पूर्वसवर्णदीर्घः न स्यात् इत्येव पूर्वसवर्णदीर्घ निषेधे प्राप्ते अस्य सूत्रस्य का वा आवश्यकता इति चेत् अग्रे पश्यामः is he next Dikshiter himself raises the question and answers this next जसि प्रत्यये परे किं भवति सवर्णदीर्घः Vishwapa jas as iti sthite. Atrapi आदौ सवर्णदीर्घः प्राप्नोति तद्बाधित्वा प्रथमयोः पूर्वसवर्णः इत्यनेन पूर्वसवर्णदीर्घे प्राप्ते दीर्घात् जसि च अत एव उक्तं दीर्घात् जसि परे इचि च परे पूर्वसवर्णदीर्घनिषेधः जस् प्रत्यये परे निषिद्धत्वात् अत्र पूर्वसवर्णदीर्घः न भवति अकस्सवर्णे दीर्घः इत्यनेन सवर्णदीर्घे विश्वपास् ऋत्वं विसर्गः विश्वपाः विश्वपाः विश्वपौ विश्वपाः प्रथमा विभक्तौ एकवचने बहुवचने च समानं रूपम् the same form in both singular and plural for this shabda. Okay. So now यद्यपि इह औङि नादिचि इत्येव सिद्धम् दीक्षितैरेव कौमुद्याम् उच्यते इह औ नाम औ प्रत्ययः औ प्रत्यये परे नादिचि अवर्णादिचि परे पूर्वसवर्णदीर्घः न इत्युक्तत्वादेव सिद्धम् किं सिद्धम् पूर्वसवर्णदीर्घनिषेधः सिद्धः even without dirgha jasicha we can negate purvasavarna dirgha because using nadichi. But the question is how do we negate in jas? Because nadichi says only ichi pare purvasavarna dirgha na. What happens in jas? Jasi tu satyapi purvasavarna dirghe kshatir nasti. In jas when akara is followed by jas, whether you do purvasavarna dirgha or akassavarna dirgha, there is no difference. Right? When there is Vishwapa and As, whether you use Prathamayoh Purvasavarnaha or Akassavarne Dirghaha, the resultant letter is the same. You have an Akara as the Ekaresha. The form would be the same. So, in Au, when followed by Au, you can use Nadichi to prevent Purvasavarna Dirgha. When followed by Jas, you don't need to prevent Purvasavarna Dirgha for Akara. Because Akara, when followed by Akara, always gives Akara. Whether by Purvasavarna Dirgha or by normal Savarna Dirgha. So, why do we need this sutra? Tathapi gauryau gauryaha ityadyartham sutram. The sutra, the actual purpose of the sutra is to derive forms like gauryau gauryaha. You have gauri au. Tatra nadichi ityanena purvasavarna dirghaha na bhavati. Because it is not at. At iti pare purvasavarna dirgha nishedhaha uchyate nadichi. But gauri, there is no akara. So you cannot use nadichi. That is why we need the sutra dirgha jasita. So dirgha swarat ichi pare purvasavarna dirgha nasti. Similarly, gauryaha. There also to prevent purvasavarna dirgha. There is a difference. If we do purvasavarna dirgha, it would be gauri. If we prevent purvasavarna dirgha, there would be yan to give gauryaha. So there we need to prevent purvasavarna dirgha. So for that we need the sutra dirgha jasicha. Okay. So the purpose of dirgha jasicha is not to derive forms vishwapo vishwapaha. It is to derive the forms gauryau gauryaha. Tathapi gauryau gauryaha ityadyartham sutram ihapi nyayatvad upanyastam. Nyayam is when we have the sutra, it is always right to use it. When there is dirgha jasicha which prevents, which applies in this case, that is one thing which we have to remember about all sutras. If there is a possibility of application of that sutra, the sutra will apply. You cannot say even if the conditions are satisfied, okay, no need of a sutra. There is no case where that would happen. If the conditions are satisfied, the sutra will definitely apply. Here the conditions for dirgha jasicha are satisfied. Therefore, in jas we do prevent purvasavarna dirgha by dirgha jasicha, even if purvasavarna dirgha would not have given a wrong form. The form would have been correct with or without nishedha, but still since the sutra, the conditions for the sutra are satisfied, we apply the sutra. And in case of au, the question is, should we use nadichi or dirgha jasicha? So, I mean, the resultant is the same. Tathapi paratvat. Since dirgha jasicha is the later sutra, we use it to prevent purvasavarna dirgha and not nadichi. Okay. So, since the sutra is there, it is true that for this particular case, we do not, that sutra is not mandatory. But still, since the sutra is mandatory for some other form, it exists, and since it exists and the conditions for it are satisfied here also, we apply the sutra here also. That's why he says, Tathapi gauryau gauryaha ityadyartham sutram ihapi nyayatvat upanyastam. Okay. Any questions? Okay, shall we move on? So we have Vishwapaha, Vishwapau, Vishwapaha. He Vishwapaha. You have He Vishwapa and Su. What happens in He Rama, Su? Rama शब्दस्य संबोधने प्रथमविभक्तौ एकवचने किं भवति? हे राम सु इति स्थिते किं भवति? रविचंद्रन जी संबुद्धि लोपः केन सूत्रेण? हेलो रविचंद्रन जी? No.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the sutra.
Okay. So, anybody remembers the sutra? हे राम सूचिस्यते सुप्रत्ययस्य लोपे हे राम इति रूपम्. लोपः केन सूत्रेण? What is the sutra which mandates lopa? No, it is not aprakta lopa. It is not halyambhyo dirghah. Okay.
Yeah, see, it's engraswat sambuddhehe.
Correct.
Engatat angat hallupyate.
सत्यं हल्लुप्यते संबुद्धेश्चेत्. एङन्तात् ह्रस्वान्तात् च अङ्गात् हल्लुप्यते संबुद्धेश्चेत्. So since Rama is a hraswanta anga, we delete the supratyaya, it becomes He Rama. But since Vishwapa is dirgha, we cannot delete some. It says eng hrasvat sambuddheः. तस्मात् इह sambuddhi लोपः न भवति. यथा प्रथमा विभक्तौ तथैव सु इत्यस्य रुत्वं विसर्गः हे विश्वपाः. Okay. He Vishwapau, He Vishwapaha. There is no difference. The forms in Sambodhana Prathama are the same as in Prathama. Okay. Tataha am pratyaya. Vishwapa am. Ditya vibhakto ekavachane. Soja samochashityadina am pratyaye. Kim bhavati? What happens here? Vishwapa am. किं भवति? विश्वपा अम् इति स्थिते राम अम् इति स्थिते किं भवति? हीरालाल जी?
अमी पूर्वे.
अमी पूर्वः. सत्यम्. अमी पूर्वः इत्यनेन पूर्वरूपम्. This is one thing which you do not even need to think about. Wherever, whatever the shabda it is, if it is an Ajanta pada, I mean in Halantas it will not apply. So if it is an Ajanta pada, wherever you have, it is Amipurvaha. There is no, there's only one sutra which overrules Amipurvaha. You can take it as 95% of the cases. If it is Pratyaya, it has to be Amipurvaha. Amipurvaha ityanena purvarupe sati Vishwapam. Vishwapaha, Vishwapau, Vishwapaha, Vishwapam, Vishwapau. Samanam. Au pratyaye purvasavarna dirgham badhitva. Dirgha jasicha iti nishedhasya sattvat. Purvasavarna dirgham badhitva. Vruddhirechi ityanena vruddhau Vishwapau. ततः किं भवति इति प्रश्नः. विश्वपा शस् प्रत्ययः अस्ति. शसि शकारस्य लशक्वतथिते इति संज्ञा अस् इति शिष्यते. विश्वपा अस्. अत्र तु दीर्घात् दसिच इति न भवति. जस् प्रत्ययः नास्ति, इच् अपि नास्ति, नादिचि इत्यपि न भवति. तेन किं भवेत्? प्रथमयोः पूर्वसवर्णः इत्यनेन पूर्वसवर्णदीर्घः भवेत्. किन्तु तदपि बाधित्वा. Actually we should have got प्रथमयोः पूर्वसवर्णः, but preventing that is a sutra ato dhatoh इति अग्रिमं सूत्रम्. परद्वयमेव विद्यते. आतः धातोः अंगस्य इत्यधिकारः bhasya ityapि adhikarah. Adhikaradvayam asti. So the angadhikara which starts from 641 and the bhadhikara which starts from 64129. So the condition for this sutra is the anga has to be bha. That is why we are starting it from shas. Can somebody tell me what is bha? What is the sutra for bhasamya and when do we have bhasamya? Hiralandi.
Yachibam.
Yachibham iti bhasamya vidhayakam sutram. Kaha arthaha? When do we get bhasamya?
When ya or achi is there at the end of that anga, it is known, the previous one is known as what is known as ba.
No, it is not at the end of the anga. When ya or ach is at the beginning of the
Follows.
pratyaya.
Yeah, follows, correct.
Yeah. So when yakara or ach, a vowel is at the beginning of a pratyaya, the prakriti part is called bha. Okay. So it should not be sarvanamasthana also. The first 5 things. Swadi pancha pratyayanam sudanapumsakasyatenena sarvanamassthanam iti samya vidyate. Asarvanamasthana yajadi swadi pratyaye parataha. So when any prakriti is followed by swadi pratyaya which starts with either yakara or ach, then that is called bha. Okay, bha is a samya. So the general rule what we say is after the au, su aujas ammau ityanantaram, yadi ajadihi pratyayah tarhi bhasamya, yadi haladihi pratyayah tarhi padasamya. Swadisha sarvanamasthane ityanena padasamya. That is the division which you should always remember. We are talking only of these 21. Su aujas to ni os sup. Among these 21, there are 3 major divisions. The first 5 pratyayas, su, au, jas, au, are called sarvanamassthanas. There are karyas which are specifically catering to sarvanamasthana only. After that again there are 2. Any pratyaya which begins with an vowel will be called bha, and when followed by any pratyaya which is beginning with an vowel, the anga part is called bha, and when followed by a haladi pratyaya it will be called pada. So there are different karyas which are meant for bhasamya. Wherever there is bhasamya, there are different karyas which happen wherever there is padasamya. So these are 3 major divisions which is subanta. Okay, in among supratyayas there are 3 things. The first 5 form a set. Among the rest, any ajadi pratyaya is one set and haladi pratyaya is another set. Okay. Now this particular sutra applies for bhasamya, which means an ajadi pratyaya starting from shas. Alloponah ityatah lopaha ityapi anvartate. Kaha arthaha? Akarantaha yaha dhatuh. Ataha iti dhatuh visheshanam. Tadanta vidhau akarantaha dhatuh. There should be a dhatu which ends with akaranta. Tadantasya bhasya angasya. And there should be an anga which is ending with that dhatu. So remember our own this Vishwapa ityasti. Pa rakshane. Pa iti akarantaha dhatuh. Vishwapa iti tadantam angam. An anga which ends with an akaranta dhatu. This is Vishwapa. And now when followed by shas pratyaya, this gets the bhasamya by yachibham. So all conditions are satisfied. There are 3 conditions. First thing, there should be a dhatu which ends with akara. Second thing, there should be an anga which is ending in that particular dhatu. And the third thing, there should be bhasamya. So far, when we dealt with the first 5 pratyayas, even though there was a dhatu and an anga ending with that, there was no bhasamya. So bhasamya starting from shas pratyaya, asya sutrasya pravrittihi adhunaiva. Astu. Akarantaha yaha dhatuh tadantasya bhasya angasya lopah syat. Alontasya kasya lopah bhavati? Angasya lopah ityuktam. We cannot delete the entire anga. The anga is Vishwapa. Should we delete the entire Vishwapa? No. Tada kim bhavati? Alontasya iti antyasya akarasya lopah. Any vidhi always happens for the antya. So antyasya nama akarasya eva lopah kriyate. Kim bhavati idani Vishwapa shas aspratyaya as iti shishyate shas pratyaye. Akarasya lope Vishwap as iti bhavati. यचिभम् इति भसम्यायां सत्याम् आतो धातोः इति सूत्रेण आकारस्य लोपः विश्वप् अस् आकारस्य लोपः ततः ऋत्वं विसर्गः विश्वपस् इत्यस्ति सकारस्य स्थाने ससजुषोरुः इति ऋत्वे खरवसानयोः विसर्जनीयः इत्यनेन विसर्गे विश्वपः विश्वपः इति बहुवचनं द्वितीया बहुवचनं I mean, it would be a tendency to decline this as Vishwapaha, Vishwapo, Vishwapaha, which is wrong. Vishwapaha, both forms are there. Vishwapaha is also there and Vishwapaha is also there. But there's a difference. Vishwapaha is Dvitiya Bahuvachana. Vishwapaha is Prathama Ekavachana and Bahuvachana. So Vishwapaha, Vishwapo, Vishwapaha, Vishwapam, Vishwapo, Vishwapaha. अग्रे तथैव यत्र यत्र अजादिः प्रत्ययः यथा टा प्रत्ययः तत्र सर्वत्र आकारस्य लोपः विश्वपा आ टा इत्यत्र चुटु इत्यनेन टकारस्य संज्ञा आ इति शिष्यते विश्वपा आ पूर्वस्य अङ्गस्य आकारस्य लोपे विश्वप् आ विश्वपा भवति विश्वपाभ्याम् इत्यत्र तु आकारस्य लोपः नास्ति किमर्थं नास्ति why don't we delete this akara here when followed by ta we deleted the akara by ato dhatoh why not in vishwapabhyam correct so there is no bhasamyam since it is not an ajadi pratyaya bhyam is a haladi so there is padasamya and there is no bhasamya so that is why the ato dhatoh comes under the bhadhikara bhasya adhikare patitam तस्मात् भसम्यायां सत्यामेव तस्य प्रवृत्तिः अत्र तु न भवति यत्र अजादिः प्रत्ययः तत्र आकारलोपः यत्र हलादिः प्रत्ययः तत्र किमपि न भवति देयर इज नो कार्य एट ऑल विश्वपाभ्यां जॉइन इट इज विश्वपाभ्यां विश्वपा विश्वपाभ्यां विश्वपाभिः इत्यादि एवं शङ्खध्मादयः शङ्खं धमति धमा धातुः तस्यापि शङ्ख धमा इति स्थिते आकारान्तः धातुः यथा विश्वपा इत्यस्य रूपं तथा शङ्खध्मा so there are any dhatu ending with akara if you derive forms it would be like this shankadmadaya okay so now this is the entire form vishwapaha vishwapau vishwapaha he vishwapaha he vishwapau he vishwapaha vishwapam vishwapau vishwapaha akara lopah एवं विश्वपा इत्यपि अस्ति प्रातिपदिकमपि विश्वपा तृतीया एकवचनेपि विश्वपा विश्वपाभ्यां विश्वपाभिः विश्वपे विश्वपा ए इति स्थिते आकारस्य लोपे विश्वपे विश्वपाभ्यां विश्वपाभ्यः विश्वपः so notice that विश्वपः occurs at 3 places द्वितीया बहुवचन पंचमी षष्ठी एकवचन okay so विश्वपः विश्वपाभ्यां विश्वपाभ्यः विश्वपः विश्वपोः विश्वपाम् विश्वपि विश्वपा इ ते आकारलोपे विश्वपि विश्वपोः विश्वपासु so there is no karya at all it's very simple so in the first 5 it's only sandhi then if it is akara ajadihi vibhaktihi tarhi akara lopah haladishched vibhaktihi kimapi na bhavati now among akarantas there are other category where the akara does not belong to a dhatu what happens धातोः किम् आतो धातोः इत्यत्र धातोः इति किमर्थम् उच्यते यत्र धातुः नास्ति आकारान्तं प्रातिपदिकमस्ति किन्तु धातुः नास्ति तत्र अस्य सूत्रस्य प्रवृत्तिः मा भूत् इत्यर्थं धातोः इत्युच्यते किम् उदाहरणं हाहान् इति दत्तं दीक्षितैः धातोः किं हाहान् कः अर्थः हाहा इति कस्यचन गन्धर्वस्य नाम the Amarkosha says ha ha hu hushchaiva madhya gandharvas kridivaukasaam devatanam sthane ye gandharvaah santi tesham namani santi ha ha iti kasyachana gandharvasya nama is the name of a gandharva and it's an avyutpanna pratipadika meaning you cannot give a derivation say vishwapa had a derivation which I said vishwam pati iti vyutpattihi vidyate ha ha ityasya tu tatha vyutpattihi nasti avyutpannam pratipadikam so if it is an avyutpanna pratipadika how does it get pratipadika samya since Vishwapa ityatra tu Vishwam Pati iti समासः समासत्वात् कृतद्धितसमासश्च इति प्रातिपदिकसंज्ञा जाता अत्र तु समासः नास्ति since it is avyutpanna it is not kridanta it is not tadhitanta it is not samasa also so how do we get pratipadika samya for this satyam arthavad adhatu raptatyah pratipadikam hema bhagini vadati so there are as I had told there are not many examples for that particular sutra because generally many of the words happen to be kridantas or tadhitantas or samasas so this is one of the words where there is no vyutpatti यदि अव्युत्पन्न शब्दः तदा अर्थवदधातुरप्रत्ययः प्रातिपदिकम् इत्यनेन प्रातिपदिकसंज्ञा विधीयते अयं धातोः आकारः नास्ति the akara which is here in ha does not belong to a dhatu तस्मात् आतो धातोः इति सूत्रस्य प्रवृत्तिः नास्ति we do not apply आतो धातोः तेन किं भवति आदौ कोऽपि विशेषः नास्ति हा 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 हौ हा 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 सु ऋत्वं विसर्गः हा हा वृद्धिः हा हौ सवर्णदीर्घः हा 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 हाम् अमिपूर्वः हा हां वृद्धिः हा हौ अग्रे किं भवति विश्वपा शस् इति स्थिते आतोलोपः इति लोपे विश्वपः इति जातम् अत्र तु हा हा शस् इति स्थिते प्रथमयोः पूर्वसवर्णः इत्यनेन पूर्वसवर्णदीर्घः भवति तदा किं भवति हा हास् पूर्वसवर्णदीर्घे कृते तस्मात् छसो नः पुंसि तस्मात् कृतपूर्वसवर्णदीर्घात् शसः सकारस्य नकारः स्यात् पुल्लिङ्गे तस्मात् सकारस्य स्थाने नकारादेशे हाहान् where it was vishwapah now it becomes hahan because ato dhatoh will not apply for such shabdas where there is no dhatu tayeva tatra uktam akarantah yah dhatuh tadantam yadangam ityadina so hahan next ta savarna dirghah ha ha किं भवति हा हा इत्यस्मात् आ प्रत्ययः अकस्सवर्णे दीर्घः इत्यनेन सवर्णदीर्घे पुनः हा हा इत्येव भवति हा 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 हाभ्यां हा हाभिः ङे वृद्धिः हा हा ए इति स्थिते आकारस्य लोपः न भवति किन्तु आद् एचि परे वृद्धिः वृद्धौ हा है रूपं हा 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 हाभ्यां हा हाभिः हा है हा हाभ्यां हा हाभ्यः नसिङसोः दीर्घः दीर्घः नाम सवर्णदीर्घः अकस्सवर्णे दीर्घः हा हा इत्यस्मात् ङसि प्रत्ययो वा भवतु ङस् प्रत्ययो वा भवतु उभयत्र लशक्वतद्धिते इति ङकारस्य संज्ञा अस् इत्येव शिष्यते हा हा अस् अकस्सवर्णे दीर्घः इत्यनेन सवर्णदीर्घे कृते हा हास् तस्य ऋत्वे विसर्गे हा हाः हा हाः हा हाभ्यां हा हाभ्यः पुनः हा हाः ओसि वृद्धिः look at the panktis of Dikshiter that is what is so pretty about Siddhanta Kaumudi is that his sentences are so precise he tells what he wants to tell in a very compact manner so osi vruddhihi vruddhirechi ityanena vruddhau ha ha os tasthite vruddhirechi iti vruddhau ha haus ऋत्वं विसर्गः हा हौः हा 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 हौः हा हां पुनः हा हा आम् इति स्थिते सवर्णदीर्घः हा हां ङौ आद्गुणः हा हे ङि प्रत्यये परे हा हा इ इति स्थिते हा हे
A question here for me is in the case of aha, past s, when when did we use the ba sanya concept at all because of the ach letters in the pratyas like ne, ni and all this?
No, the bha samya is there. It is called bha, but we cannot apply ato dhatoh.
Yeah, but how about yasya iti cha and all that? Can we apply or we cannot?
Where will you apply yasya iti cha? It says ikare tadhite cha pare. अत्र तद्धितः अपि नास्ति ईकारः अपि नास्ति. There is no ईकार.
It's only Tadhite.
Ikare tadhite cha pare. It has to be a dirgha ikara or it has to be a tadhita. So we cannot apply asyati cha here. There is no pratyaya which starts with either dirgha ikara and it is not a tadhita.
So see, bha sanya, even though it exists, it is moot.
Yeah. Bha samya is there, but there is no karya which utilizes the bha samya.
It negated the pada not used. Yeah, it negated the pada. It negated the pada sanya. That's a reason. Yeah, and so we cannot use the rules of the pada sanya either.
No. We can use pada samya is also not negated. Pada samya is also there. It has both bha samya and pada samya as it applies. But there are no rules which would apply to this particular case, which would utilize either the bha samya or pada samya.
So both are existing, is it?
Yeah. It has bha samya. It has pada samya, but no use. I mean, there is no rule which would utilize either bha or pada samya and which would apply here. Like say, for example, a karya which would utilize the pada samya.
Yeah, only when you have the opportunity to apply either pada or bha, you can use only one sanya, is it?
Correct. So if in one particular case there is either pada samya or bha samya, then bha samya would apply because of akadara deka samya. But in this case, for example, I mean, when there is ha e, it would have bha samya. If it is ha bhyam, it would have pada samya. But either samya is not leading to any karya in case of ha.
So in all these cases, in all the nominal declensions, we need to keep this in view and see whether it applies or it doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, the bha samya and pada samya will always be there. I mean, if it is an ajadi pratyaya, it will always have bha samya. If it is a haladi pratyaya, it will always have pada samya. Like even Rama bhyam, there is pada samya, but we do not use that pada samya for anything. If it were a nakaranta pada, nakaranta pratipadika, then we could have used an alopa pratipadikantasta or something. If any karya is not there, even if the samya is there, we do not focus on it because it is of no use. Any samya is always useful only for the karya.
But if you have hahan as your starting point in the pratipadika, and
hahan is not a pratipadika. Hahan is not a pratipadika. Haha is the pratipadika. Because the nakara is from the pratyaya. It is from the shas. So that is when alopa pratipadikanta says pratipadika samyakam yat padam. Hahan is not a pratipadika. Only haha is the pratipadika part of it. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
So now, hahe shesham vishwapavat. Wherever there is no, I mean, shesham means wherever there is a halali vibhakti, it would be like vishwapa. So if you look at the haha shabda, you see that there are only, whatever is marked in red is where there is a difference. These are all the ajadi pratyayas. Yatra bhasamya, yatra atodhatoho ityasya pravrittihi, tatra asmin, in this it wouldn't apply. So you see that there could or could not be a rupa difference. It does not mean that there is also always a difference in rupa. Say ha is like vishwapa. There you get atodhatoho and here you do savarna dirgha. The rupa is the same, but the sutra will definitely vary. So in all these marked in red, there will either be a rupa difference or a sutra difference in deriving that particular form. So ajadishu vibhaktishu bhedaha drishyate. Anyatra tu yatha vishwapa shabde tatha atrapi. Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. There's one more small point which he says in this respect to this sutra. There are cases where, I mean, as he just proved, if it is not a dhatu, yadi आकारः धातोः आकारः नास्ति तर्हि आतो धातोः इत्यस्य प्रवृत्तिः न भवति यथा अत्र उक्तम् as we demonstrated in ha ha shabda. If the akara does not belong to a dhatu, there would be no lopa. Okay? But we see that Panini himself has used some forms, some akaranta shabdas where he has deleted the akara even if the akara does not belong to a dhatu. So what do we do in such cases? Yes. Ataha iti yoga vibhagat adhatorapi akara lopaha kvachit in a few cases. Always you should remember yoga vibhaga. Yoga vibhaga means splitting a sutra. It works only in very rare cases where there has already been a shishta prayoga. Shishta prayoga sadhanarthameva kvachit yoga vibhagaha iti kriyate. Vidyamanaha yogaha. Yogaha nama sutram. Yoga means a sutra. Yogasya vibhagaha. Ato dhatoho iti ekam sutram asti. Tat sutram vibhajyate. Ataha iti ekam sutram. Dhatoho iti aparam sutram. उदाहरणं सः ददाति क्त्वः श्नः क्त्वा इति प्रत्ययः अस्ति क्त्वा इति आकारान्तशब्दः तस्य षष्ठी विभक्तौ क्त्वः इति उपयुक्तं पाणिनिना एवमेव श्ना इति विकरणप्रत्ययः तस्य षष्ठी विभक्तौ श्नः इति उपयुक्तम् actually if we go by the rule like ha ha shashti of ha ha is ha 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 so the shashti of ktva should be ktvaha and the shashti of shna should be shnaha. But Panini has used as ktvaha and shnaha, which is like vishvapaha, where he has deleted the akara. So what do we do it? For example, he says, samase anaipurve ktvo lyap, ktvaha lyap, ktvaha, ktva pratyasya sthane lyap bhavati. Ktva ityasya shashti vibhaktau ktvaha iti upayuktam. Kramascha ktvi. क्त्वा इ इति स्थिते आकारं लोपयित्वा क्त्वि इति प्रयुक्तं पाणिनिना. Similarly, हलः श्नः शानज्हौ. श्नः श्ना इत्यस्य षष्ठी विभक्तौ श्नः. So these are all the cases where Panini has gone against his own rule and saying that the akara lopa is only for a dhatu. Even if this ktva and shna are not dhatus, he has deleted the akara. So what do we do there? We split the sutra. Ataha and dhatoho are two separate sutras. Ataha is the only sutra. What does it mean? If there is an anga which ends in akara, any anga which ends in akara and has bhasamya, the akara would be deleted. Kasyapi angasya आकारः अन्ते अस्ति चेत् भसम्या अस्ति चेत् तस्य आकारस्य लोपः भवति इत्यर्थः. धातोः इति सूत्रस्य तु स एव अर्थः. आकारान्तः यः धातुः तदन्तस्य अङ्गस्य लोपः स्यात्. So now this particular sutra ataha, which is a split sutra, cannot be utilized everywhere. If we use it everywhere, even for ha ha shabda, it would have to apply, but it does not apply. So any sutra which is derived from yoga vibhaga will apply only where there has already been a shishta prayoga, only where the bhashyakara accepts it. So all the yoga vibhagas are generally told by the bhashyakara. So only where the bhashyakara uses it to derive some form like this, we use yoga vibhaga. So you cannot argue that you will use this sutra everywhere. Okay? So where there has been such prayoga, where the akara has been deleted even if it does not belong to a dhatu, tatra etayoh dhatutva bhavat katham allopaha iti chet yoga vibhagam krutva ktva ityasmat as pratyaye krite ktv as ataha iti vibhaktam sutram. It is not the original sutra. The sutra has been split, and using that sutra we can delete the akara here to get ktvaha evam shnaha. So all these we do for defending forms which are already used by, in this case, which has been used by Pani. Okay. So this is for using yoga vibhaga, some cases. That is why he says kvachit. Keshuchit udaharaneshu adhatorapi akara lopaha. Dhatoho akaraha nasti chedapi lupyate. Yoga vibhagat. Okay. Any questions? Vasuji?
I have a couple of questions for my better understanding here. if you do yoga vibhada, if you do ataha and then dhatoho, then dhatoho has to independently make sense with respect to the other sutras that follow, right? Or it doesn't have. Or it doesn't have to. See, when you split the ataha dhatoho, then technically dhatoho can be an independent sutra, right?
Yes.
And it should make sense with respect to the sutra that follows next.
I mean, what do you mean by it should make sense?
In the sense, when you say just dhatoho, it can be, it has to make an independent sense, or
yeah,
it has to
the artha for that sutra is the same as what is the artha for auto dhatoho.
Oh, okay. It will come as an anuvritti. It will come as an anuvritti and fill it up.
Yeah, exactly. The ataha will be taken to that, and the artha is the same as what is the artha for the original sutra.
My next question, thank you. My next question is, you have mentioned samase anaipurve to lyap, and in what context did you bring that in? Just to use the twa?
No, this is where I mean you know the rule that the twa and lyap. If it is a plain dhatu, we use twa, and if there is an upasarga, we use lyap. So lyap is not an independent pratyaya. It comes as an adesha for twa. When there is a samasa, there is a samasa, gati samasa between the upasarga and the dhatu. So wherever there is an upasarga, the twa will be replaced by lyap. That is why we say gatva agatya, patitva prapatya, so on.
And so you mentioned that only to use the twa as an example.
That sutra is not intended here. It's just the usage of tvaha.
Okay, nothing more than that. Okay, so I was,
no, nothing more than that. You don't need to worry about the meaning of these three sutras. They're only to show the prayoga of Panini.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
Can I ask a question, Swamiji?
Sure.
In the Balamanorama, he gives an example of mala. Can we get into that?
Not now, because he goes on into further things where it's a further question on this particular thing. So if you want, I can have it before next class or sometime. But I think it's too heavy for this.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks.
Anything else? Okay. Inakshara samam nayamati gamya maheshwara tasam vyakaranam proktam tasmai paninaye namaha. Vakyakaram vararuchim bhashyakaram patanjalim paninim sutrakaram cha pranadosmi munitrayam namaskritya tatuktih paribhavya cha vyakarana siddhanta kaumudihim virachyate. So the next class is on Monday, as usual.